All right, welcome to another CP Mindset Talk, where we break down concepts and provide strategies that will help you improve your mental game so that you can achieve consistent elite performance. I'm Dr. Cassie Preston, I'm a mental performance coach and the founder of CP Mindset. And today I have the pleasure of having one of our top mental performance coaches, Sam Levins, with us. And we're going to dive straight into today's topic, which is 3 steps to strengthen your self-confidence. Sam, why don't you tee up why this is so important?
Yeah, confidence is a key to high performance. Unfortunately, confidence is often misunderstood and people overlook the most important part, self-worth.
And I'm going to throw these slides up here because it just helps us break us down and show people what we're talking about here. And the whole idea and what you're saying there, Sam, is like a lot of people see themselves as their own worst enemy. And as long as we have that narrative and that mindset and that self-perception or self-talk, is really going to hold us back with confidence. And there's 4 other kind of key parts that are limiting beliefs and hold people back and they struggle, which could be yo-yo confidence or tying confidence to results or praise, or imposter syndrome, where they believe that they don't belong. And there's, that's attacking that self-worth you mentioned. There's also the victim mentality, which is a huge one in terms of thinking about, not taking responsibility. It's other people's responsibility for them to become confident, or they're blaming and using excuses for others. And the last big one here is negativity bias, which is a lot of people are just really hard on themselves. They beat themselves up a lot. So this is really common in our work. We see this with the athletes today. Is there anything I missed here that we want to make sure we touch on before we dive into those 3 steps?
I think you covered them very well. I just think those are all really common, and it's easy to kind of fall into those traps and to get caught up in the things that are going on around you. So having that solid sense of self-worth is so important.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to really focus on this one, because this is a big one. And one of the first steps that we're going to talk about helps deal with this. Because if you see yourself as struggling with self-worth, that's the roots of the confidence tree. And this work comes from Simon Marshall, Leslie Patterson. They did a great job in their book. I think it's called The Brave Athlete, right? And did a great job explaining this tree where self-worth is at the root. And it's important. It's like how you see yourself. Do you believe that you're worthy to succeed? Because if this is not sturdy, if you don't have the roots of the tree grounded, then it's hard for the confidence, which are the big branches here, to be sturdy. And sometimes we think, oh, I've got a confidence problem. It's actually because you're tying their self-worth to what? Other people, results, etc., things outside of their control. And if we're allowing that to attack the self-worth, how we see ourselves, are we capable? Do we deserve things? Are we worthy? Then there's going to be the whole tree get shaky. And so one of the key lessons when we're thinking about start with the roots of the tree is you, the athlete, the person, have to determine your own self-worth. You choose, am I worthy? Who am I as a person? How do I choose to show up? And that grounded sense of self-worth and self-belief really matters. And I'll let you kind of hit on this because I know you've got lots to say here, but anything else in terms of dealing with the roots of the tree? We'll talk about some of the other pieces in a moment, but anything else on this first step?
Yeah, the roots of the tree are underground. That means that external sources should not be able to get to the roots of your tree. It should be entirely dependent on, the way you see yourself, your perception, your value, your worth. It should be about you and other people and the experiences that you have in life and in sport and in everything else should not impact that self-worth. It should be sturdy and pretty well unshakable.
Yeah. And I use a word like filter a lot. So we want to be able to filter all this external stuff on all layers of this confidence tree that we call it. And the premise is especially at the roots though. And it's important that you take care and you understand this basic concept that you believe you can go forward. And it's important to understand, like, you can't always easily identify what is self-worth, and we can make it sometimes bigger than what it is. But from a foundational piece of, differentiating confidence, which is the trees and the branches, there's your confidence as an athlete or in other areas in school or other careers and relationships. But the foundational part is, am I worthy? And so it's a good place for us to kick off with the first step. Let's slide in here to the second step, which is about now growing a well-rounded tree. And the premise here is we're now talking about self-esteem. How do you see yourself overall as a person? And a big key way to look at this, and the big mistake, is people will overly focus on one area. And if you have one big branch over here, what's going to happen to the tree? It's going to slant over to the side. It's not going to be a well-rounded tree. And a lot of people, a lot of athletes, high performers, achievers, we wrap our whole identity around one thing. And so that thing's not going well, our whole identity as a person can become very unbalanced and not healthy. And so, Sam, I'll throw it to you here because self-esteem is such a big concept, and I'll let you elaborate a bit on this one.
Yeah, I mean, self-esteem is the trunk of the tree that comes from those roots, that self-worth, but it also supports the branches and the leaves. So it's such an important and core piece of this analogy. And it's like going back to what you said about the branches cast, like of course you don't want one that's like the main focus of your life and it's really heavy and there's nothing going on the other side of the tree. But at the same time, some branches are going to be weaker than others. Like you're going to be more confident in some areas of life, and that's totally normal. But you don't want to be neglecting some branches or leaning too heavily on some branches. And you want to make sure that the leaves that are growing on each of those branches can be healthy and developed and grow. Um, but yeah, it's all about that well-rounded tree and making sure that you're tapping into each part of this. So you're strengthening yourself overall and building that confidence overall, not just on one of those branches.
Yeah. And a couple of good points. It will help you in your sport. You get a new hobby or you work on relationships or your school or your reading. That helps you perform better actually, because it is easier to detach. And we talk a lot about detaching from results, detaching from the outcomes. And if you're having a hard time doing that, then making sure that you see yourself and have other areas will really help actually your overall self-confidence and therefore your confidence even in your sport. And then the other thing to highlight is it's okay that have certain areas not be that big, right? Because it's like, well, if you haven't gone to med school, then you shouldn't be that confident in doing heart surgery. Like it's something you earn and you have to put in the work, which really tees up our last big concept here, which is put in the work and own your capabilities. And I often say, like, don't make it a confidence problem if it's not. It's often just a capabilities. And as a society, we often misinterpret and don't even understand what the word confidence is. And I like to use this slide here where we call this like yo-yo confidence. And a lot of people define it in our society based on praise and results. And as we alluded to earlier, there's a ton of variability in that. And then you're going up and down as your results go up and down or praise, because you're not going to have consistent results and or completely consistent. There's always going to be variability in it. And the premise there is, we want to stop even going into this definition. And so we actually tell athletes to stop even using the word, just focus on capabilities. And that's putting in the work, then owning it, not beating yourself up, which so many athletes do. They're too hard on themselves. So we want to stop doing that and just own our capabilities. And then also you have to be physically, mentally prepared. You need to sleep well and that kind of thing. It's going to throw off your capabilities on a day. But this blue line here is then capabilities isn't really changing over time. It's after a long period of time. Yeah, it should be going up if you put in the work, and you have to put in the work and have the capability. And performance, as you can see, still has variability over it. It's a lot more of a stable trait. There's not these big upswings and downswings in how you see yourself and how you perform, because there's a lot more consistency and stableness in the whole concept. And so these are the branches itself. And if you go back to the other slide, just as a reminder to tie it in, the self-efficacy means your belief in certain skills. So that's working on the different skills as an athlete or in your sport. And that matters. And that's, again, how you have all these different capabilities. So this is such a big thing. We want athletes to move from, this old definition, yo-yo confidence definition that's about those external things, and just focus on the word itself, jump straight to the punch, which is, what are you actually capable of? And then own that, and don't have any of these excuses. And I love that word, for why they're not owning all their capabilities. So I know I said a lot there, Sam. Do you want to help maybe bring that one home? Because I go on tangents as usual, which is why I need people like you to keep me on task here. So any final thoughts on this third one?
Yeah, I mean, confidence is a skill. It's not something you're born with. So this is something that you can develop. If your tree is not very sturdy, that's okay. Like you can work on it. It's something that you can develop. This is something you can grow. And when we're talking about consistency and owning our capabilities, we're not trying to play the exact same every game and like maintain a very specific level. It's just about closing the gap between, the good days and the bad days. So we're playing closer to the same level every game. And you're going to have exceptional games and you're going to have not so great games. And that tends to come from, the preparation that you're putting in and whether or not you're sleeping well. So there's so many factors that can contribute to some variability. But if you're doing the preparation and the work and you're owning it consistently, you're going to have that stability and you're going to be able to develop all parts of the tree.
Yeah, 100%. Well said. And just to summarize this, the takeaway is this is something you can work on. It's understanding what it is, not getting caught up in those misconceptions and falling into the imposter syndrome. And again, it's normal. I've done it. Sam, I'm sure I know you've done it. We all
Oh yeah.
get into our own head. We struggle with this, but having some steps, understanding the concepts and the strategies to then work on will really help. So make sure you're taking care of the roots of the tree, then grow a well-rounded tree, have more areas, focus on other areas of your life that actually will help you in your area of performance in sport, or other areas where you're trying to perform. And then lastly, make sure we're not making it more than what it is. Focus on capabilities over confidence, put in the work and own it. And don't have any of those excuses and get caught up in any of those narratives that aren't serving you. So I don't know if you have any final thoughts here, Sam. We'll take it. We'll stop sharing the screen and just bring this home with any final concluding thoughts. Final thoughts from you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about being arrogant. It's not about being cocky. It's not about being insecure or trying to force positivity. It's just about understanding what you're able to do and having an accurate understanding of your abilities and of who you are so you can have that accurate confidence.
Yeah, well, pleasure getting to do my first video with Sam here. Loved having you on, and reach out with any questions, leave comments. What you took away, what you thought was interesting, and see you in the next video. Make sure to subscribe, all that other fun stuff, and reach out if you have any questions or interested in programs with us. Thanks, everyone.